On today's show, Ottawa Senators training camp is underway. We've got the roster and everything you need to know.
We continue with our organizational value rankings with 3 defensemen, and we've got a SensCentral Citizen. Today, it's Kenji.
This is Brady Kachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It is time for hockey futures. The NFL season is underway, and you can get in on the action with FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now. Visit FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Today is Wednesday, September 17th. And Pilsy, is it fair to say that Sens hockey is back?
Is this number 4 times that we said Sens hockey is back?
I think it's 3. Because
the golf tournament,
then the rookie tournament, now
okay,
physicals, medicals, and media day.
For the 3rd time, Sens hockey is back, finally. Yeah, we got the training camp roster, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, but I would say this was the most underwhelming or least surprising training camp roster we've had in our time doing this show. Like no name, well, maybe there's a couple, but no PTOs, no real massive shockers. Like this is a pretty standard training camp roster reveal, but that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, no Nikolai Kulemin at this year's camp. No Kalen Addison. Yeah, but there is a bit of a battle going on online about what a PTO is. So there are, in quotes, technically some PTOs, but they're guys who are already signed in Belleville for the year, like Kean Washkrick, Jamison Reese, Philip Daou, those guys. Any team could poach them at any minute if they signed them to a 2-way NHL contract, but technically they're not members of the Ottawa Senators organization, although they will be in Belleville. The roster is set. My one surprise, and maybe I shouldn't be because there's only 2 nets on the ice, but they brought 5 goalies, which means that Luka Beckman is not going to be at camp, nor is Vladimir Nikitin. That one makes sense. He's USHL. Those guys typically aren't at NHL training camp, but the Quebec League guys typically are, the CHL players. So I was a little surprised without seeing Luka Beckman, but Ottawa does have 5 goalies signed to NHL contracts. So those will be the 5 goalies there. So as a hashtag goalie friendly show, why don't we start there? We're not going to name off every player of 52 or 53 that were
53
invited to Sens training camp. But the goalies are Linus Ullmark, Levi Marilainen, and Mad Sogard. Sogard's on a 1-way contract as well as Levy. Then you've got Hunter Shepard, still no number for him, and Jackson Parsons, who really impressed at rookie tournament. So those are the goalies. There's 5 goalies. There's going to be 17 defensemen and 30 goalies at this camp. On defense, what are you most excited to see?
I mean, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here, Ross. This is an easy one. It's all about Carter Yakimchuk. He absolutely wowed everyone last preseason with some highlight reel plays, and he made the Ottawa Senators have to make a decision. Like, it wasn't an easy, like, okay, we saw what Yakimchuk has. He's got to go back to junior, wipe your hands. This is easy, clean decision, nice move on. Like, they had to really decide what was best for his development. And I think if you would have asked a lot of Sens fans at the time, there was major disappointment that he was sent back to junior. Pilsy preaching patience. I thought that was the right move. I think even Carter Yakimchuk would probably admit to you now that that was the right move. He had another year to round out his game a little bit better. He added 10 pounds of muscle, he was saying, over the summer. And now that decision isn't whether he's going to go back to junior or not. It's going to be, can he knock the doors down and force a way onto this D-core in the NHL, or will he start or spend most of his time in the AHL in Belleville?
Yes, and all fair questions and easy to be excited about the potential of Carter Yakimchuk. It ties in to my biggest question, more so than excitement for the defense, is what's the status of Nick Jensen? Obviously, he's on the roster for training camp, but will he be on the ice when they begin their sessions tomorrow? It could be a bit of a blessing in disguise, because then there's an opening for Carter Yakimchuk to move up and play in an NHL pairing right off the bat and kind of throw him.
Is there an opening?
You think?
Because
you know what Matt and Palo is going to be like. I think it's fine to have Matt and Palo paired with a Sabrango or a Jorian Donovan in training camp. I think you'd want to see what does Carter Yakimchuk look like, whether it's with Sanderson, Shabbat, or Clevin. I think this is your time to experiment. I think with Matt and Palo, you know what you're going to get, a steady depth defenseman who's going to be able to play 50, 55 games, maybe more if need be. But yeah, I'm most curious to see what the status is of Nick Jensen. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice 3 of the names are in yellow. I was hesitant to put Andonovski in yellow because he is Belleville eligible, but also junior eligible. He's in the same boat as Carter Yakimchuk, who obviously we didn't highlight, but I could see them going the Tomas Hamara route, where Andonovski goes back and plays 1 more year as the captain of the Kitchener Rangers. Eric Wallenius is going to Moncton in the Quebec League, and Gabe Eliason is going to Barrie in the Ontario Hockey League. Everyone else that's been invited to training camp is going to either be on Ottawa or Belleville this season. The full list is available if you're watching on YouTube, obviously, or it's on Twitter at SensCentral. If we just named all 53 players, I don't think it would be very informative and entertaining. I think it would get a little monotonous. Same with the 30 forwards here that we put. 30 forwards, Pillsy. That's 10 lines. We'll see how many of these players end up getting into a game or 2 in the preseason. A reminder, there's only a 6-game preseason schedule. It's down from 8 games in previous years. What's the biggest story for you up front?
I mean, it's tough because all the spots up front are accounted for, in my opinion. Like, I don't see any openings on this roster. Possibly 4th line left wing, like Nick Cousins. Maybe they could consider having him as a 13th forward, but I think they like the way he plays. And I think if it wasn't for the injury last year, he would have been consistently on that team and on the roster. So I think you're looking more at who amongst the tweeners can really put themselves at the top of the list. I'm talking Ole Lexell, Stephen Halliday, Zach McEwen, Arthur Kaliev, Jan Yannick. That's probably where that list ends.
Tyler Boucher?
No, I don't have Tyler.
I just got excited at the rookie tournament. I got excited. But look, here's how you can convince yourself there could be an opening up front. Zach McEwen needs waivers, of course, with the one-way contract, but I don't think you're worried about that. Where I could see a spot is if Nick Cousins doesn't have himself a great training camp, he could, I think, find himself as the 13th forward and create one opening on the 4th line.
Yeah, that's what I had mentioned as the only possible opening, really.
Nice. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Like, Ross, I would even have Hayden Hodgson as a more likely candidate than Tyler Boucher because he has a 4th line role and he spent some time in the NHL. I mean, when he was up, he knew his assignment, and
yes.
If he didn't get hurt, I think he would have had a little bit more time there as well. But I think, again, it's tough because normally we would have excitement like, ooh, where's this guy going to go? Can this guy really make an impact? But again, it's a good thing. This roster is fairly set. So it's kind of refreshing that those ideas aren't there. Although I do get a kick out of, I'm talking PTOs that are not currently in the organization, more in the traditional sense. It is fun to watch old guys or random guys come in and be like, oh my God, could this guy make an impact? Could he actually get on this team? And it's fun to have those guys here to create competition, but that's not the case this year.
No, it's not. I'm excited to see how the coaching staff decides to implement the lines. And we put out on Twitter as well this morning, kind of the fill in the blanks, because we've been clear and we think the coaching staff is on the same page that there are duos throughout the lineup already with Stützle and Tkachuk, with Cousins and Batherson, with Pinto and Gregg. And then I put Eller and Cousins there. But again, we already had the conversation twice about Nick Cousins. So we'll leave that as a duo as well. So how do you fill in the Giroux, Perron, Zetterlund, and Amadios of the world? And one good thing about that is all the players I just mentioned, Amadio probably did it the least, but Perron, Zetterlund, and Giroux have all played left wing and right wing last year. So you have the versatility to plug and play wherever you see fit. So I'm excited to see how the coaching staff has their back of the napkin first day of training camp lineup, and we'll go from there. But players I'm most excited to see, Dylan Cousins and Fabian Zetterlund. First training camp with Ottawa, big acquisitions at the deadline. How are they going to immerse themselves fully into day one, learning the system and getting themselves ready to go for opening night? Cousins got himself ready to go right away. The guy got traded on a Thursday or a Friday afternoon and was in the lineup at noon the next day and was a part of the comeback win against the New York Rangers, and then scored the game winner the next game against the Detroit Red Wings. So he's obviously made a lot more of an impact than Fabian Zetterlund, but those two in training camp are going to be the guys who I'm most curious to get updates on.
Yeah, and just quickly, I think one other storyline we need to look at that could have an effect here, and we've talked about this, but Mads Søgaard has an opportunity here just due to the way contractually his situation is different than Levi Meriläinen. He needs waivers if he is sent down, whereas Levi does not. And Mads is on that one-way deal. This is when he was expected timeline-wise to be a backup in the NHL. Obviously, we know the injuries and the play hasn't been up to expectations, and I think he would say that himself. So this is his opportunity. He's had a full off season. Hopefully he's healthy to say, hey, at least give me a shot at the backup opportunity, because he's behind Levy now.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're just coming back from summer vacation, whatever the case may be, well, 2 weeks ago, we did our top 5 storylines for Senators training camp. So you can go get that wherever you find your podcast. On the other side, it's our SensCentral Citizen. We'll wrap up today's show with our organizational value rankings. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Guys, let's be honest. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's your 401k, property, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. Don't do that. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Let Monarch do the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Do you have subscriptions that you forgot you're paying for? We all are guilty of that. So link your accounts to Monarch and immediately spot subscriptions you aren't even using. Canceling those will save you money every month. Monarch makes it simple to review your finances with your partner. You can both see budgets, goals, and spending activity all in one place. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen, a man that we've met many times at the CTC, but it's a trek for him to get there. It's Kenji. You can find him on Twitter at almostyellow. Kenji, what's going on, man? Welcome to Locked On Sens, finally.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, guys. It's great to be here. Been a long time coming, I guess. So it's gonna be fun.
So easy to figure out when you have time to listen to the podcast, because you make it to a good number of Senators games every year. What's the commute like for where are we talking to you from?
We're in Bowmanville, so we're looking at about a 2.5-3 hour drive each way.
Hey, that's short compared to me. I got the 6-hour drive, so that's nothing. You're just on the highway and you're good. So maybe stop through Belleville on the way there.
Yeah, we usually try to make it all the way through. If we do have to stop, it's usually in Caladar is kind of our midway point. But we've always joked, like, if Pilsy's making the pilgrimage there, we should tell him, hey, just pop in Bowmanville and we'll take him the rest of the way so he doesn't have such a long drive.
Yeah, maybe I'll take you up on that.
Well, you need to have room for a canoe to strap on top of your car.
Yes.
Well, and that's the other thing. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing. I wouldn't want to take away from your exercise or anything, but we do have an SUV, so there is a roof rack if needed.
Yeah, because he can't be going in Lake Ontario in the canoe. Like, he's got to be taking the back swamps all the way, maybe end up on the canal eventually. But hey, all jokes aside, we appreciate you jumping on, man. This is perfect timing too. Medicals, physicals happening today. Season's about to go on. What's your feeling about the Senators heading into this season?
I feel good. I try to temper it most of the time because I've been a fan for a while, so I've had my heart broken many times before. But it feels good. I think we've got a lot to be excited about, and if they can keep playing the way that they've been playing, and the guys take the steps that everyone kind of expects them to take, I'm hoping that this is going to be the start of a new stretch of like consistent playoffs and, ultimately achieving our goals here, bringing a cup back to Ottawa.
Yeah, let's hope so. And we'll get into the team and the season later on, but we got to get into Kenji. How did you become an Ottawa Senators fan?
So I've been thinking about the way to condense this because it's kind of a long, relatively complicated and a little sad of a story, really, because I grew up close to Toronto in a suburb called Scarborough. And I didn't get into hockey until I was in like my early teens. So at the risk of aging myself, we're talking like the early 90s, right? So at that point in time, no social media, internet was new. So if you wanted out of market games, you had to physically go there or you just weren't watching them. So when I first got into hockey, it was Leafs. If you spoke French, it was the Canadians, and that was about it. So I just kind of watched it. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily a fan of the Leafs or anything, but that was all I could watch. And, even from then, I kind of realized that, the Leafs suck. So they, I wasn't really into it. And the funny connection ends up becoming, so the Leafs end up bringing in Damian Rhodes I think it was in 94 maybe or something like that. But I thought that he was doing really well, and they ended up trading him to Ottawa. So I'm like, well, Ottawa is a new team. If I'd rather start on the ground floor and kind of grow with a team. So I followed Damian Rhodes over, as random as that is. And then, I stuck with it, and the rest is history, as they say.
So you're meant for a goalie-friendly show. Yeah. We love that. Yeah. And Damian Rhodes, fun fact, the only Senators goalie to score a goal, even though he didn't actually shoot the puck. Made a save. Then the pass went back to the point, missed the defenseman, and went all the way into the other net. That's like one of the coolest things is being a goalie and being able to score a goal. We still haven't had a Sens goalie shoot the puck into the net. Damian Rhodes got about as close as possible. But talk about good timing. That's a 95-96 season, and that was still a tough one for the Ottawa Senators. But the following year was the start of the stretch of playoffs every single year for 11 seasons. How much did that help you from becoming, hey, let's just focus on this team, this new team, they're up and coming, to becoming a diehard fan like you are now?
It was a huge help. And I mean, it was all a timing thing. I think was super lucky that way, right? Because I've been spoiled with having that, like, and watching the team just consistently get better and better, and always in the playoffs. You've always got something to be excited about. It really kept me engaged with the team and everything. And then once we got into the point where I started following social media and started taking in all the different content from yourselves and everything else that's out there, like, it really helps you get that information, learn more, and just, like, love this team even more if that's possible.
Hey, Pillsby, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Kenji's a patient guy. Damian Rhodes, first 9 games with the Ottawa Senators, 1 win.
That's tough. Well, I like that a goalie brought you to Sens fandom, because it's the same story for me with Dominic Hasek a little bit later. But Kenji, you living in Scarborough at the time and becoming a new Sens fan, I imagine the first live Sens experience you had was in Toronto, or did you get to go to a Sens game early on in Ottawa?
It actually was in Toronto. So I was really lucky growing up. My family was all quite close by, and one of my aunts, she had ridiculous luck with raffles at work. And she was that person that as soon as people saw her putting ballots in the good boxes, they just didn't even bother because they just knew she was going to win, even if she only put in one ticket. So I was very lucky. I got to go see at least 3 or 4 Leafs Sens games because she won tickets, and they were all in the lower bowl. So I would always go there. And then at that point, I had like all sorts of Sens jerseys. Like in that era too, like once Spezza came in, Spezza was my guy, right? So I have like 4 or 5 different Spezza jerseys. So I'd be rocking that all the time. And anytime the Sens scored and I jumped up and started cheering, she'd grab me and pull me down and be like, be quiet. Cause she thought like people were going to get angry with me and stuff. But it was a lot of fun. I didn't get to a game at the CTC until I think it was after Chara left the Sens because he was playing for Boston because my friend's a Boston fan, so we made the trip out there to go see that. So whatever the first year was that he left, that was when. And then now it's just I if we're gonna see a game, we always come to the CTC. We don't give MLSE our money.
Nice.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Kenji. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from our friends at FanDuel.
Yes, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, guys, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You guys know FanDuel is my go-to sportsbook, and it should be yours as well because they have bets that fit however you like to play. Player props, same game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. And the NFL season is already getting crazy. Quarterbacks injured left, right, and center. So you got to find ways to play your game. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Yeah, and you want to be around 18,000 of your best friends when you're at the CTC.
Oh, absolutely.
So that year was actually 06-07 that you would have made your first appearance, but it wasn't your last appearance that year because I can see behind you, you've got tickets from the Stanley Cup Final Game 3. Old school paper tickets need to make a comeback. I actually saw, just as an aside, the Washington Capitals are giving their season ticket holders paper tickets this year. A lot of rumors that it's because it could be Ovechkin's last year, so some commemorative memorabilia. But like that ticket, like move your head again. I need to see that. You can see the huge Stanley Cup on it on the side, like that. It just feels like a golden ticket to get in. So, what was the story behind getting to the Stanley Cup Final, and what was your experience like? Because game 3, you were saying that's the one game they got the victory. So that was pretty key too.
Yeah. So it was such a random thing. Like I was playing men's league back then. So a buddy of mine and I were up having a beer after hockey, and it was a Friday night, and he's a Sens fan too. And we're just sitting there talking, whatever, it was late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something dumb like that. And all the highlights were on the TV, and he just looks at me and he's like, "Hey, we should go to the game tomorrow." And I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, we don't have tickets. We've never been there. We don't have a hotel. We don't know what's going on." He's like, "Whatever, it doesn't matter." He's like, "Tomorrow morning at, whatever time, 10 o'clock in the morning," because he just lived down the street from me randomly. He's like, "I'm going to come pick you up. So be ready. We're going to go." And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. So I go home and I went to bed. And sure enough, the next morning, there's someone banging at the front door. And I'm like, "What is going on?" I come downstairs and he's like, "So are you ready? Let's go." I was like, "Oh my God." So we packed in the car. We drove out to Canada. We ended up getting a room at that hotel that's just at the corner there at the top of Palladium there. Yep. And then we just kind of hung out until it was close to game time. And he's like, "Oh, we'll just go down and we'll talk to some scalpers." So we went down to the arena, and there was a guy selling tickets, and he had he had one pair of tickets that was for like the 300s maybe. And then he had these tickets, which were for the 100 level. And they're, like you said, they've got the Stanley Cup on them. There's a picture of Alfie on there and stuff. So my buddy looks at me. He's like, "Okay, so are we going to get the plain ones or do you want Alfie?" And we just both looked at each other and we're like, "Let's get Alfie." So we shelled out and we got inside just after Lyndon finished singing the national anthem. And it was unreal. Like it was an experience unparalleled to any other game that I've been to, and I can't wait to get a chance to go back and do it again.
look, Kenji, we're fired up about the past, but a lot of Sens fans, they're looking ahead, and it's time to get into this upcoming season. We know that November is still a bit of a teeth-clenching time, but if the Senators are going to get through that heavy road November and the start of the season, who's your X factor? Now, not only for the start of the season, but for all of it overall, like which player do you think is going to have the biggest impact? We're only through one Citizen so far this preseason, and we're keeping track of all this. So think wisely. Who's going to impact the team the most this year?
So I'm going to go, it may not be original, but I'm going to go with Zetterlund. My thought process with that is because all the talk right now is around him being that guy that's going to fit on the top line with Timmy and Brady, right? So you've already got kind of all the rest of the lines seem to have been working well last season in the playoffs and stuff like that. And he was the one guy that no one could kind of really find a spot specifically for him where he was going to stick. So if he can fit on that first line and he can produce up there and get them firing and scoring, then that's going to be huge. Because if he can't, and then they have to start shuffling things around, then you're looking at, do you mess with the Cousins, Batherson, Perron line? Do you mess with, G being down, maybe G being on the third line with, with Pinner and Ritz? Do you move that around? And then a fourth line too, of having Ehlers and Cousins and Amadio sounds pretty good. Again, once you start shuffling that stuff around, the complementary players, then you might start causing more problems than you need, right? So he's my guy. Everyone seems to be pretty confident from what I'm hearing. I'd like to think so too. But like I said, I've been hurt before, but so I'm rooting for him, and he's the guy that I'm going to be watching.
No, I like that because Timmy needs a shooter on his line. So Zetterlund, in my opinion, was brought in to be that guy. I know Ross wants Timmy to be the shooter, but he still needs a shooter to pass to as well. So that's a player you're hoping can elevate the Sens. But where are you hoping this team ends up? Like, Kenji, what is your expectation for the Sens this year? I know last year a lot of people were just like, let's get to the playoffs. Let's play the Leafs in the playoffs, and what happens, happens. That was kind of the standard answer from Sens fans. But now that they've gotten to the playoffs, what's your hopes?
Well, the easy answer obviously is that they make it to the playoffs again. With how close they were to actually being in the top three in the division, I'd like to see them crack that. But the most important thing for me is going to be for them getting into the playoffs again and winning a round. I think they're that close. Not to go comparing to the past again, but I mean, if you think about that series that they played against Anaheim in the Cup final, how many of those games could have gone either way? Like one save here, one pass there. Same thing with the series against the Leafs. There was 3 of those games that went into overtime, and it could have gone either way. So if they get that growth that we need, and the new guys that came in are able to do what they need to do, I think that they're going to be getting past the first round. And honestly, I hope it's against the Leafs again, because I need a chance to redeem myself for a couple bets that I made.
So my final question, and maybe we'll have to ask this to all citizens, Pilsy, because it's something that we've grappled with all summer long. How would you power rank? Like, our organizational value rankings are going on right now. It's obvious, clear that there is a top 3. How would you order Tkachuk, Stützle, Sanderson in value to the organization?
Oh, why did you have to ask me that?
I know. You think we're just giving softballs here? Come on.
I know. Well, I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, every time I see people try to do this, I always think to myself, like, how would I do that? And it's so hard because it might be a cop-out answer, but they each bring something unique, right? So it's hard to say what's more valuable than the other one, right? I mean, they say defense wins championships. So if I was going to put someone first, then I guess you would put Sandy. And then I like, at the risk of offending people or whatever, I think Brady and Timmy would almost be interchangeable for what they bring, right? Like, I'd have to go Brady Timmy, I guess. And that's not to say that I don't think Timmy is better than any of them else. Definitely don't get it twisted, right? But yeah, if I had to do that, I think that's what we had laid out there.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And earlier this summer, we put out just asking, hey, who are the best Ottawa Senators right now? And that's the other thing. Like, the way that you word it is also really makes you think about what the answer is. Because I think, for me at least, most valuable is Brady Tkachuk. Most talented is Tim Stützle. And the best is Jake Sanderson. Yeah. Like, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's just so interesting because they're all so close. And we're seeing that with, like, the wide lens, like the people who cover the NHL rather than just one team, when they're putting out all their lists, all three of those guys, whether it's the NHL Network or the Athletic or TSN, they're all so close in terms of the league scope. It's like top 100 players, and then within 5, it's all 3 of the Ottawa Senators players. So it's a fun debate, man, and it's a thinker. It really makes you kind of dig into what you personally value when you're watching hockey, and clearly it's defense for you, saying that Jake Sanderson's number 1.
Yeah.
Good problem to have, though, having all 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, you think about what we had more recently, and to be here now, there's lots of ifs and buts. If this guy did this, or if we made that trade or picked that guy. But I mean, I think everyone should be pretty happy with what we've got and where we're going, because we've got a large amount of really highly skilled and fun players to watch for sure.
Kenji, we'll see you at the home opener or what?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Nice. The word is out apparently on Section 320. The last couple of years we were able to get in there, and there was nothing left. So we're a little bit over at 318, but we'll be there for sure. Yeah.
320, man. The view from up there is electric. Love it. But not a bad seat in the house, honestly. And now in the 100s, you might even say it's elevated because we got the all leather. I'm excited to see how that looks on TV as well. The improvements, upgrades, if you will, continue at the CTC as we await for LeBreton Flats. But hey, this was a long-awaited Citizen, and we cannot thank you enough, Kenji. This was an absolute blast. Your passion shines through every single answer, and we can't wait to see you at the CTC again, man. Keep repping them in enemy territory, and we look forward to catching up soon.
No, absolutely, boys. It'll be great to see you there. Thanks for having me on.
Stick taps to Kenji for joining us. Really fun conversation. Before we get to our organizational value rankings, look, we're men of honor on this show when we make mistakes, which we often do. Although Brady Tkachuk did say we're never wrong on this show. Turns out Thomas Mueller doesn't play for Vancouver FC.
Yeah, I was gonna let you know, Ross, but you were feeling it in the ad read. You were so confident that I second guessed myself, and I was like, no, there's no way Thomas Mueller is coming to Ottawa, but that would be fun.
Turns out there's Vancouver FC and there's Vancouver Whitecaps FC.
Yep.
Who knew?
Different league, different teams. You know what? Maybe he'll come just for fun and dominate in that league.
Yeah, like I was thinking, like back in the day when the Ottawa Lynx were there, like Frank Thomas, legend for the Chicago White Sox, was on a conditioning stint or a rehab stint, and he came to Ottawa to play the Lynx, and it was like, oh man, like that's awesome. He's a legit MLB star. So I was like, hey, maybe, like, is Messi coming to Ottawa next? Come on.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right after the Mueller game.
Yeah, I heard he's going to do a one-on-one signing at the Glebe Central Pub.
Yeah, I think it's just Messi versus the entire Ottawa Atletico team. We don't know Atletico Ottawa. We don't know soccer.
I'll take Messi by 6.
Yeah, over under. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, jokes aside, it's time for organizational value rankings. And if you heard Kenji, defense wins championships. And we got 3 defensemen today as we continue climbing up tier 4, our role NHLers tier. And we're starting with a man who's been on all 6 of our organizational value rankings. It is choo-choo Tyler Kleven. The K-Train has his first full season in the National Hockey League, and it was a good one, man. 79 games played, had 10 points, and really saved the best for last. He was awesome in the playoffs.
Yeah, Ross, anytime you have a guy, Mark Messier, you might have heard of him, glowing about you on national television about
he
how
played
good.
In Ottawa.
Yeah, there you go.
Not for Ottawa, but in Ottawa.
about how good you've been playing in the playoffs in your first time in the playoffs. That's a good sign. And Tyler Clevin played in 79 games in the regular season last year for the Sens, had 4 goals, 6 assists, finished -11 with 27 PIMs. He earned himself a new contract, 2 years at $1.6 million. I think, again, this is a deal that both sides, it's a fair deal for both. He will be an RFA still after this and gives him a little bit of a well-deserved upgrade on his money there. And he's only 23 years old, 6'5", 221. The K-Train really settled in with his partner, Nicholas Matimpalo. Will they be together for most of the season this year? That remains to be seen, but you got to like the way Tyler Clevin is progressing here, and I'm excited for what he can show this year. I think, Ross, I'll echo what you said a couple times. I think the one thing we'd like to see him improve on is use that physicality a little bit more. We've seen it in Belleville. We've seen it before. I think he can really raise his physical game, although that reverse hit that he had in the playoffs was pretty sweet.
Well, yeah, and that's just the thing. Like, he dipped his toe into the NHL, and it's about not making mistakes, about making tape-to-tape passes off the boards and out, becoming a legitimate option on the PK for the Ottawa Senators. And I feel like with that, once your feet are now completely soaked, he's knee-deep in the National Hockey League, and it's time to do what you do best, which is rock guys. And he's done it his whole life. I completely believe that that will be a huge part of his game, and we call him the K-Train for a reason, right? Like, he's got a bit of Anton Volchenkov in him, where you need to know when he's on the ice because he can come out of nowhere and hurt you. I mean, EP did him so dirty. They haven't updated his dimensions. They have him at 6'4", 201. This guy's 221 pounds. He's got that Midwestern farm boy strength, if you will, and he's going to be an important piece. Like, you need to have these guys on the third pair. Look at Florida with Nico Mikkola, a guy who can play up and down a little bit, but is so big and so mean that he just adds a different element. You've got the great skaters, the puck movers on the left, and I kind of like how it's something different on the left side. Remember back in the day, the left side was your meat and potatoes with Mathot, Phaneuf, and Boro. And now, but then, like, you know, when you're the other team, like, hey, the left side is going to be physical no matter what. Well, now on the left side, you're like, okay, left side's going to skate it out. Like, let's dump it into the left side. And then all of a sudden you dump it in. Oh, wait, there was a line change, and there's this mutant out there who's going to run me over if I try to hit him. I like that kind of element of surprise, if you will, that they can add to that. So Tyler Clevin, like, he's down one spot on our OVR from 16 to 17, but that just speaks to the depth that's been accumulated in the organization. Like, he started out at 33. So if you're looking from that standpoint, he's up quite a bit from when they drafted him. And many people called it a reach at 44th overall. They said, oh, they're just trying to get the North Dakota Sens going. And then, yeah.
Especially Leafs fans. Leafs fans thought they won the draft with the 2 picks that they got that have a combined 0 NHL games from that trade.
And they're not even playing in North America anymore. Both of them signed over in Finland. So, sorry.
Yep. Sweet job there. Last thing I'll say about Clevin is, similar to Michael Amadio, I would like to see Clevin take a major step as a penalty killer as one of his expanded roles this year. I'm not sure who he would play beside him. I don't know if I fully trust Clevin and Matimpalo to be killing penalties. I think I like the idea of Clevin and Zub as a unit. I know you want to keep Sanderson and Zub together. That's fine, but
Clevin Jensen could work.
Yeah, Clevin Jensen also could work, and who knows, maybe those two could be a pair just regularly as well, depending on how this lineup shakes out. But yeah, Tyler Clevin entering his second full season. You kind of forget, Ross, that he played 8 games in 2023, 9 games in 2024, and now finally had a full year in the NHL. So he had little cups of coffee, and then he got the full venti last year.
Yes, he did, and continued growth is expected for him. I think Jordan Spence, we talk about partners at 5-on-5.
Yep.
It's the perfect yin-yang where he's going to be able to keep things smooth and steady and be the net front box out guy in his own zone. And he's also got a sick shot. Just go look at his first NHL goal against the San Jose Sharks. That was an absolute bomb. So hopefully there's more offense in there as well. But he's growing into a very steady, reliable player that you're excited when he jumps over the boards, because anything can happen. And maybe spend a little time with Chris Neal this offseason as well. I know he took on a real tough customer in Adam Lowry for his first fight, but the way that we're expecting him to grow into his play and be more physical, he's going to have to get into a few more fights with that style of play. So we want him to be ready and able to take care of those when the time comes. Coming in at number 16, it is Jordan Spence, 24 years old, 5'11", 180. And man, I'm excited to see what he's going to add to the 5-on-5 offense for Ottawa, because his big calling card is moving the puck out of his zone quickly, tape to tape with speed, and he's going to allow for some more rush chances for the Ottawa Senators when he's on the ice.
Yeah, I think a lot of Sens fans are very excited about Jordan Spence, the classic born in Australia, grew up in Japan, played hockey in PEI, LA to Ottawa route. I mean,
yep,
as
everyone does it.
Yep. But at 24 years old, 5'11", 180, right shot defenseman. Last year with the LA Kings, 79 games, 4 goals, 24 assists, a plus 23. You'll love to see that. And all reports were that the LA Kings the coaching staff didn't necessarily feel that they could trust him in bigger moments, and there was other guys that they wanted to give opportunities to on the right
Ottawa
side.
Boy, Brant Clark.
Yep. So that's why they decided to move on from him. And the Ottawa Senators, I mean, oh my God, talk about a great trade and finding some insurance, if you will, for Nick Jensen if he's not healthy at the start of the year like we expect will happen. But I don't like Jordan Spence for me, Ross. I'm not viewing him as just like an insurance guy that's like a throw in and like, hey, if he's got to play some games, so be it. Like, I think this is a guy that could really work here in Ottawa, and I think he should be excited to get here. And like you mentioned, I love the idea of him on that third pair with Tyler Kleven, if that's the way things go, because with Kleven and Matinpalo, you didn't have that puck mover, whereas 28 points in 79 games as a young defenseman, and I assume he's defensively responsible as well with the plus 23. Obviously doesn't tell the whole story, but this is a guy that could make a lot of sense, and I think Tyler Kleven would benefit from having him beside him.
And even though he's not the biggest guy, from the clips I've seen of him defending, like, he is a guy that can angle really well and is so smooth with his skate that he defends kind of like Nick Jensen does, where he's not going to overpower you, but he's going to be kind of sneaky in a way. And he's playing for his next contract. He's an RFA after this year, but he's on his last year at $1.5 million. Last year, he averaged just under 17 minutes a game. Big reason for that was Drew Doughty missed the first half of the season, so that elevated Jordan Spence in the lineup. His 2 previous seasons, well, only one was a real sample size of 71 games, he averaged 14.26. I'm going to bet he's closer to the higher end of that. I really think that if he develops the way the Senators hope, he's going to force their hand to maybe make that move of putting Nick Jensen with Tyler Kleven and allowing Spence to be a top 4 guy. Now, we can get into whether it works with Shabbat or if it's too much of the same thing, but I think he's going to bang the door down and say, we're going to need more ice time here. And I think he's a motivated player. The boys seem to be really excited that he's coming in. So he's definitely one of the guys to watch this training camp to see how he immerses himself into what the Sens are doing.
Final question for me, Ross, is do you see a world where he could be on any special teams?
I wouldn't start him on the PK. And I know the Senators go 4 forwards on both power play units, so it's Sanderson and Shabbat. But look, knock on wood, but injuries do happen throughout the year. And this is why he's in the role NHL. Like, he's got a role here as a guy who's going to move pucks, but he also has kind of an untapped ceiling that we could see elevate more and more. And the fact they got him for a 3rd and a 6th round pick, I mean, come on. And both picks that were acquired in trades, one for Kevin Mandolese, the 6th round pick, and the 3rd from just trading back 2 spots in the draft. Like, come on. Really excited to see him. He comes in at number 16 on our organizational value rankings. As we teased, this is the defensive show. Coming in at number 15, it's Artem Zub, cult hero for the Ottawa Senators. 6'3", 200 pounds. He's going to turn 30 years old in 2 weeks' time. And what a find. Like, for all the talk about Ottawa's pro scouting during the Pierre Dorion era, getting Artem Zub out of Russia as a 25-year-old undrafted free agent was magic. Like, this guy is climbing quickly the all-time games played list by the Ottawa Senators. And I know that he had some injuries last year that kept him down to only 56 games, but what a perfect stabilizer for literally whoever he plays with.
Yeah, it's crazy that they found him from Russia. And I think people forget just how much pro experience he had. Like, Ross, he's got 6 years in the KHL, 256 regular season KHL games. And get this, I kind of forgot this, 52 KHL playoff games. So, like, him coming to North America, he was not some, inexperienced guy. Although the Ottawa
Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, Olympic gold medalist. The Ottawa Senators seem to think that, as remember, he was a healthy scratch.
Oh, for Josh Brown.
For weeks. And then they finally figured it out. And
their right side had Erica Branson and Josh Brown, but not Artem Zub.
Yeah, crazy to think of at the time. But last season in 56 games, 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points. What was it? The jaw, or no, it was concussions this year that hit in LA, right?
No, well, in Ottawa, but that crazy
Thanksgiving
game. Tanner Jeannot put him into next week. I think he broke his foot later on in the season, though.
Yeah, so he didn't have the best health, but when he's healthy,
fractured foot.
He's the guy for Jake Sanderson. Remember Jake Sanderson when reporters asked, hey, what's the difference between playing with Zub and Hamnick? I mean, I think there's a lot of differences, but Sanderson just joked, one of them understands English, the other one doesn't. So Artem Zub is certainly a guy that, whether him and Sanderson can communicate effectively in their language or not is not relevant, because they can communicate and work together really well on the ice. And I know there's some ideas that maybe you put Shabbat with Zub because that's a pair that have worked in the past. But for me, I'm putting permanent marker Sandy Zub. You want those guys up against other teams' top opponents. And I'm hoping we can get a full season from Artem Zub this year.
And I know that I've said this for probably 4 years because he's been with the team for 5. I do think there's more offense. And he took a huge step, not this season, but the year before. He had 25 points, 5 goals. And I just, like, if you look at his numbers in the KHL, like, he was always a guy that like had at least a bit of pop to him.
Yep.
So I do still think that could be a possibility for the Ottawa Senators. Like I'm thinking like 7 goals, 23 assists, something like that.
Yeah. For me, Ross, as long as he's in the 20s in points and is a plus player, works for me.
Yeah, and he's obviously getting some of the most defensively heavy minutes in the Ottawa Senators. Like, in the playoffs, he started 78% in the defensive zone. Like, he is your shutdown defenseman, and he does a great job at it. So, big year for him, too. He's got 2 years left on his contract at $4.6 million, but it's about staying healthy and staying consistent. As he has, slow and steady wins the race. He's got 2 more games played than Mark Mathot. He's 36. If he plays 82 games this season, Pilsy, and obviously this is a little bit dependent on Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson, who are ahead of him in games played, more so Stützle. Batherson would still be ahead slightly on a full, if he plays the full year, but like, he's going to be top 30 in games played. If he plays 82, he'll have more games played with Ottawa than Mark Stone. Like,
that's crazy. Wow.
It's wild to think of. And he's obviously been on the OVRs now for 6 seasons. He started out at 24, quickly jumped up to 11, and he's been in this range ever since. He went from 11 to 12 to 14 to 12, and now he's up at 15 on our organizational value rankings. But he's a cult classic for a reason, man. He just seems like a very, like, shy. I think even if he knew English well, I think he just seems like a shy personality overall, and very low maintenance player. And every team needs those that's going to have success. So we're big fans of Artem Zub, and that's why he comes in at number 15 on our organizational value rankings. Pilsy, on ice starts tomorrow. We'll overreact to day 1 line combinations. Any final thoughts on today's show?
No, we're running a little long today. Too much good content, so I'll keep it short here.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. As I mentioned earlier, if you have missed anything over the summer, we've got our full catalog available for you wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, where a comment, like, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. So be a friend, tell a friend about Locked On Senators. So for Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.